Welcome to the Green Room, where we explore the environmental issues that green up our world. Today's guest is Mark Williams, manager of the Western Washtenaw Recycling Facility in Chelsea. It's been almost 5 decades since recycling first came on the scene, and it's gone through lots of changes over the years. Mark will be catching us up on some of the current challenges and opportunities of the recycling world. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Barbara.
So, your facility serves 5 townships in the cities of Dexter and Chelsea. You provide pickup in Chelsea, but drop off for the rest of the area?
Yes, we run a bin service where we have roll-off containers and allows the public to bring their recyclables to the bins, and we pick them up and bring them back to our facility for sorting and processing.
Okay, great. And how long have you been there?
I've been there for 11 years. I've been the facility manager for the past 3.
Okay, great. And about how many people work there?
We have 11 full-time employees, 4 truck drivers, and the rest work inside the shop.
Great. So I've heard that China is no longer taking a whole lot of materials unless they're almost 100% clean, no contaminants, and that's just creating havoc in the recycling world in the U.S. How's it affected your facility?
It's created quite a stir between recycling facilities. Created a large flood of material in the States, driving the prices way down.
Such a shame.
But, most of our material was never shipped over to China.
Oh, good.
So it stays all local. Between here, I think the furthest it goes is Chicago.
None of it goes internationally?
No, not anymore. Our cardboard and paper goes to Graphic Packaging in Kalamazoo. Our plastics go to Dundee. Our metal all goes to OmniSource right in Jackson. So all very local.
What are some of those things made into, do you know?
Well, at Graphic Packaging, they make box board. So any Kellogg cereal boxes,
Okay.
any Miller Lite beer cases, anything like that. If you look on the side of it, you'll see a Graphic Packaging logo, and that's where all our paper and cardboard goes. They mix it up and turn it into box board. They also make like a bacon board there as well.
Bacon board?
Yes, the board underneath your bacon if you ever eat it.
Oh.
So, and then our plastics go to Dundee, where they're washed and ground up. They're used in Tide bottles,
Okay.
Absol Pure bottles. So if you ever go to a Michigan football game, you'll see it there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and then also in clothing, like North Face and Patagonia.
Wow.
They all use about 10% recycled bottles.
Huh.
So,
Didn't know that.
yeah.
That's cool. In terms of why we should recycle, now, you know, some people grumble that we have to pay for it, you know, but we do have to pay to put things in a landfill. And I came across some facts that I want to throw out. In terms of climate change, I read that most of our carbon footprint is actually from creating the food and goods that we buy. So if we're throwing things away and not recycling it, there's kind of like we're throwing away energy, really. And also in terms of the global use of materials has more than tripled since 1970 and could double again by 2050. That's according to the UN International Resource Panel. So as our global population rises and our standard of living rises, it's really crucial that we recycle. What are some of the most profitable materials to recycle?
Profitable can mean 2 different things. One is there's a volume base, and then the other one is the exact value of a material. Volume-wise, you're always going to have more fibers, meaning your paper and cardboard, than you will have aluminum, just because there's more fibers being used every day. As far as individual rates, your aluminum would be a more per ton valuable than it would be for a ton of newspaper, but your quantity is not the same, so there's quite a drop off.
I've heard that a lot of energy goes into producing virgin aluminum, so in terms of climate change, it's really good to recycle aluminum.
Yes, it is.
I actually first I wash it and reuse my aluminum, and then As time goes by, I can't use it anymore. I put it into a ball, layer it until I get a big ball, because I guess otherwise it falls through the grates in the recycling facility.
In a lot of single-stream sorting systems, they have a rate of error where material that is a certain size will fall through the screening process and be carried out onto a separate conveyor. And we currently aren't set up to clean that material well enough, so it has to be trucked to a landfill.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
No point in throwing it in your recycling.
It's just creating more work for the guys there that already work very hard. So.
Yeah. Are there any materials that you actually have to pay to recycle?
Yes, there are. On some materials, whether it's paying or we won't receive anything for them, even though we do process and sort them out.
Like which ones?
Usually it's the 3 through 7 plastics.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Like what would that be?
It'd be a lot of your thinner, like your second-hand plastics, such as your yogurt containers or anything like that.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, we go through so many of those.
Yes, or like your thin, like strawberries will come in like those thin plastic containers.
There's a lot of those too.
Yep. Sometimes we do have to pay to dispose of those properly, but there's also been times where there was a high demand for them. But over the last couple of years, it's fluctuated quite a bit from month to month and year to year.
But it's still important to recycle them, because otherwise you have to pay to landfill them, right?
Yes, and anytime you can preserve landfill space is a good thing. And
Yep. Let's see. I have some questions. I'm always wondering, like I get a lot of things that have several materials, like, whether a product that has got cardboard and then it's got plastic, all these different things. Should I be separating all that before I put it in my recycling?
Yes, you should. I mean, a lot of people will see a cardboard box. They'll have styrofoam in the middle and then plastic around the outside. Even though the system separates it out from having a bulk of contamination or commingled material, someone still has to go there and pull the styrofoam out, pull the plastic off. Otherwise, when you send it to the mill, they will not be able to use it, or it takes them more time to purify it and everything like that.
And labor costs equate with taxes, right? So
that, yes, and
I mean, we don't. I guess what I'm saying is, you don't want to make somebody go through a lot of work, because really we're all paying for it in the end.
Yep, and I mean, it is a very difficult job what those guys doing there, and adding more and more to that job. I'm sure it's very appreciated when the cleaner the recyclables are and the less manual labor they have to do with it.
And speaking of clean, I get a lot of things like an oil, a plastic bottle of oil, or glass for that matter, and then like laundry detergent or different things that are hard to clean out. Or if I do clean it out, I'm using tons of water, and then I'm like, well, which is more important? So can you take things that have some residue inside as long as they're not dripping out?
Well, yeah, like for instance, laundry soap bottle, the place they go, it gets washed in hot vats. And you can actually smell the laundry soap inside the building there.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure it makes it more enjoyable for them than having a foul smell. But
yeah.
Yes, they use hot water to wash it, and then they have their own recycling system on the water there.
Okay.
But
so
as
it
far
doesn't
as
have
food
to
or
be
anything like
perfect.
that, we prefer probably washed out.
Yeah, because otherwise you're going to get the smells and who knows, rats or whatever. Right?
Whatever comes along with it, yes.
Okay. How about something like flower pots? I get a lot of those. I hear that it's okay to recycle them, but I get a little, I knock out the dirt, but do I have to get them like perfectly clean?
I wouldn't say perfectly clean. That's another issue where we depends on the style of plastic. The heavier plastic flower pots, we will bale and sell as rigid plastic, where it goes to Meltec in Canada, and they actually return them back into plastic totes and carrying equipment.
So those you want. Maybe the thinner ones you don't really
Thinner
want?
ones would go through the 3 through 7, which is much harder to move.
So, love having these questions answered, because I'm always wondering, what are some of the most common contaminants? And by that, we mean stuff that you know, makes it really hard for you to recycle it?
Food waste is a big one.
Why would somebody put food? Oh, you mean like residue on like a pizza box or something?
Sometimes people just, instead of taking the extra step, they'll just go for what's quick and easy and just throw a pizza box in there, and it could be full of pizza crust or anything like that. Another one is people think of the old toys. Certain toys they'll think are recyclable, or bowling balls or clothing, all those come
Bowling
through there.
balls? Gosh.
Yeah. So anytime they can take an extra step to, like I said, pull, whether it's styrofoam in the boxes or
Because you don't recycle styrofoam, do you?
at our facility we do not. There are facilities that do recycle styrofoam. Just the way we are set up, we don't have the space to do it.
I've heard it's not very profitable to do it. I mean, it's kind of like,
Well, you gotta look at what a truckload of styrofoam would be at 20 tons. I mean, you'd have quite a large building to save up 20 tons of styrofoam. So
good point. I've heard plastic bags are a big problem, right?
yes, plastic bags are. So if you can go and use a different option, whether it's your bring your own bags, anything like that, it's a great help. They do get wrapped in our system, which has to be cleaned every couple hours from so many bags.
Oh my gosh, every couple hours?
Yes, otherwise the sorting part of the system doesn't function properly,
Oh,
and it just creates cross-contamination between all the products.
right.
It makes the guys up there have to work a lot harder.
And then do you have to like cut out does it get wrapped around the cogwheels and
Yeah,
stuff?
it gets through the different sorting aspects. It gets wrapped around those. It gets wrapped around the bearings, plus everything that's in the bag. Someone has to tear open at the beginning of the sort, dump it all out, dispose of the contents of the bag.
There's a big misconception that you can recycle plastic bags. I mean, yeah, if you want to take them to a special place, like the Myers and a few other places have these bins where you can put your plastic bags as long as they're really clean and there's nothing in them. I guess they get made into like plastic lumber or something.
Yeah, I know I know where I do my grocery shopping, they have a bin for any old plastic bags. I always just use a paper bag and just take them right to me with work.
I've heard that Kroger's next year is going to stop using plastic bags. Have you heard that?
I have not.
I hope it's true.
There has been a lot of things trying to ban plastic bags. I know in California they made bags that they could reuse, but it's actually ended up causing more issues because now they have a thicker, heavier bag that's getting wrapped up in their recycling equipment. So.
Yeah, there was somewhere, I think it was Austin, Texas, or somewhere did the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, I was out in California recently, and they really thick bags.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Is clothing a contaminant?
Yes, there's a lot of clothing. We have clothing drop-off bin sites
Oh, good.
next to our roll-off bins, and sometimes, even though they're labeled with the company that services those, I think sometimes people believe that we're all this one thing, and they'll throw them into our bins, whether it's clothing, bedding, anything like that, which creates a lot of worries when you're working there, dealing with someone else's bedding and all that stuff and clothing,
Oh,
so you
yeah.
don't know what's on it.
Could be
But-
bed bugs.
Something, anything.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then it creates shutdowns in the system for having to clean it out and hinders everything we're trying to do.
Yeah. So people should be donating their good clothes that can be used again to consignment shops or Salvation Army or whatever.
Yes, Purple Heart, all of them.
Yeah. And then the things that are like torn or stained, what should they do with those?
Something like that. If you can use it, find another use around the house for it, whether it's cleaning something up.
Yeah.
But then also, that would be something you probably want to throw in the trash.
What about the bin? Didn't you say you have some bins for?
Oh, yeah, we do have the bins, but I mean, those take all types of clothing. They'll take whether it's old and tattered. They'll use that for like bedding at the Humane Society
Oh,
for
great.
dogs, and they also have they go through it, and the stuff that's still usable they actually take to thrift shops and
Okay.
secondhand stores.
Great. But if you can do it first, it's less labor for,
Yeah.
yeah. And electronics certainly shouldn't be put in the recycling,
No,
right?
those go with the e-waste. We offer a county cleanup day once a year. This year will be May 18th, where they'll accept electronics. We'll take old tires, any household paints, anything like that, we'll bring there as well. And there'll be different stations where everyone can take them.
Good. How about glass? Do you want people to recycle their glass?
We do want people to recycle it. We just don't want it in our curbside bins. That was a big thing we had to try to figure out when I first became manager, is to be able to give people an option to recycle it. We don't want to tell people to not recycle it. Glass is one of the commodities that can be recycled an infinite number of times.
Reused.
Yes.
What do they reuse it for?
Some of it goes back into glass bottles. Some of it goes into road bedding, fiberglass insulation. They use some of it in paint. So we have our large roll-off service that we allow people to have separate compartments for glass. We take that glass, dump it on our tipping wall, sort out any imperfections, and then have it trucked off to Chicago, where they take it to a big glass facility.
I can't believe it's in paint. That's weird.
I didn't know it either.
I guess you don't take like shiny wrapping paper, so at Christmas time we shouldn't be throwing that in recycling.
Correct. Go with a more heavy, generic, thicker paper, or something that you'd see, kind of like a newsprint, anything like that. That shiny paper actually tends to be like a plastic or a film base.
Years ago I bought really pretty boxes, and well, of course people use reusable bags, so I don't buy any wrapping paper anymore. It's great.
It definitely takes some time to wrap everything.
Yes, that's true. It's a labor saver. Do you take like plastic utensils and paper plates, all that disposable stuff?
Stuff like that, it's been used for food, we wouldn't take it. Of course it does get put in with recycling, but also with the utensils, we do not want those in the recycling either. We don't know whether it's with the recycling numbers on it, and a lot of times during transportation those things will be, such as plastic forks and knives, will be broken up and end up going out of the system. So.
A lot of people think that the ones that say they're compostable are good to put in the recycling, but I've heard that's really not a good idea, that you should put them in if you have municipal composting, that you can put them in there, but not in the recycling.
That, and you need to make sure it's an actual compostable silverware. Some of it, like cups, there's certain cups that are made out of sugarcane that will break down and compost. But if you're putting in a styrofoam leftover food plate, you're kind of hurting what the composting is trying to do, because they have to pull that out. So just make sure it's the right thing.
How do you get all those out, the things that you're not, is it just people sorting them out?
The way the system's set up is everything, all the material gets pulled off and sorted through different stations, and it gets smaller and smaller as it goes through the sorting system. So by the end of it, it starts off as large boxes and bundles of newspaper, and by the end of it, it'll be very small pieces. Our system is set up to where there are people that sort it out, but there are other facilities that use different, like eddy currents and fiber optic sorters that will use a burst of air to push stuff off.
Sounds expensive. Well, I guess labor's expensive too.
They're both expensive.
Yeah. So trying to reduce the number of contaminants, let's see, you've pretty much talked about everything. I guess the only thing that I might add was fixing things. Like Ann Arbor Maker Works has a Fix It Friday. If you don't know how to fix it yourself, they might be able to help you. That's the third Friday of every month. I've gone and it's really awesome.
Yeah.
It's really fun. Yeah, so reducing waste in the first place, I mean, we've all heard reduce, reuse, recycle, and that reduce is the biggest priority. So in terms of that, do you have any suggestions on how we can reduce our waste in the first place?
Well, by always making sure you're doing the right thing with what you're buying, be conscious of the things you're actually purchasing. If you can find something that's not a one-time use.
Like a refillable bottle?
Yes, refillable bottle. Not only that, we've become very relying on just buying new.
Yeah.
So actually look and see if something can be fixed
Yep.
before you get rid of it, or if you can find even a second home for it, and then do the research to make sure it can be recycled, and then recycle it if it has to be that.
Like put a new battery in a laptop instead of
Just buying a new laptop, yes.
Yeah.
Or even handing it down to somebody who doesn't have a laptop.
Right, good point. I heard about a prison bike fix-it program, which I thought was really cool, that the prisoners are learning how to fix bikes and then they donate them to poor kids or whatever. That's awesome. I also hear that composting our food waste is huge. That's not really relevant to what you do, except that, well, do you compost food waste in your facility?
We do not do food waste, but composting is another form of recycling. There's like a bulk leaf pickup we do out there, and that is all to put into big compost piles. It's then turned every couple weeks, and then sold as, it's screened and sold as topsoil or as fill dirt for companies.
Great, that's great. Yeah, I love Ann Arbor's food waste pickup. That's just great. So how can people get more information about what you do at your facility and what things you take and don't take?
Well, they can visit our website at www.recycles.org or our Facebook page as well.
Okay, great. Well, Mark, that's all the time we have for today, but I really appreciate you coming. This has been super informative.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Barbara. I appreciate the opportunity.
Sure. For an online archive of all our Green Room shows, visit washtenaw.org/greenroom. Thanks for joining us in the Green Room.